Welcome back. Welcome in to the Lions Share podcast. The Lions, the Detroit Lions, are now 1-0 after a huge win in overtime against the Los Angeles Rams. The former quarterback of the Lions, Matthew Stafford, goes down again. He is now 0-2 in the last two against his former team. The diaper games are not done either. Smash Mouth football to end the one last night with the Lions finally figuring it out, punching it in late there in overtime to win it. Took it all the way to overtime, did they? But an overtime thriller, and there's nothing that Monty hates more than a defensive player. He hates overtime. He wanted that game over with and overdone soon. That's right. The Lions win it 26-20 over Stafford, and the Rams, Monty led them to the victory there at the end. We are going to talk all about that game, including all four quarters, plus the fifth quarter. We got a bonus one last night, and then we're going to talk week one in the NFL and then finish with closing time. Let's bring the boys in back once again with the boys. First of all, boys, happy Victory Monday to you both. It's always great to see. It's always great to be back in victory formation. What did you guys think about the game last night? With the closing of it in overtime, did it make you kind of forget about the lackluster, little slow action from both sides of the ball?
I think we talked about it. I said less diaper games would be incredible. Andrew called it. Dan says no chance. Diaper games in the fashion of overtime. Definitely slow progressing. Talked about it in the halftime capsules. I think all three of us did. You know, Ben trying to play chess, not checkers, setting up the long balls, for the gut punches, just kind of slow and methodical. But great game to start the season. Great Sunday night football game. Great overtime win. That offensive line and the way that they won that game is why you love Dan, why you love Ben. That offensive line imposed their will in overtime. I mean, it was so obvious that once that first play happened, they were going to win. I genuinely, I wasn't worried. I was less worried in overtime than I was in the fourth quarter. I mean, they got the ball and they just crammed it down their throats. Like, we won the toss and Jared barely had time to shake Stafford's hand because he was so excited. I feel like he knew the game was over. Like, just 3-4 yard pushes from the offensive line. So great way to start the season. Exciting way to start the season. Again, maybe 1 week break from a diaper game would be very much appreciated.
Mitchell, so well spoken, and yeah, you're right. I think the only person more giddy about winning the coin toss than Jared was Dan Campbell himself, and that little smile. I don't know if we've seen that yet. And yeah, from the first play in overtime too. Not a worry in the world after that very first run in overtime. Knew they were going to score. Knew that game was over. It was incredible to feel. And Monty, noted Eagle Scout, welcome. You've now received your score a game winning touchdown in overtime badge. Congratulations, sir. Glad to have you part of that crew. I mean, I don't know. Was Ben Johnson trying to hide a little bit of the playbook for the rest of the year? Seemed like he didn't dig very deep into the book. Won this game in a very non-traditional, or I guess a way that we're not used to seeing W's with this regime. Nearly no St. Brown, nearly no Laporta. Gibbs had a good game and he scored a touchdown, but, never really had that like one big breakout run that he usually has and makes somebody miss. It was just getting the yards, getting what they needed, and moving on. Seemed like Dan Campbell knew it was going to be close the whole way, and you could kind of feel the tide when Matthew Stafford threw that incompletion on the 4th and 4 that they had just the right amount of time, and they weren't going to give that ball up. They were either going to take it to overtime or win it.
Yeah, and Dan, shout out to Dan for the clock management there to leave them with almost absolutely no time. Even with the little bit of time they had, it was 17 seconds. Los Angeles still tried to be aggressive there, and we almost saw pick number 2, Mitch's prediction, almost coming true there.
Was pretty salty about that, to be honest with you. I was like, oh, this one's gonna feel good, and I feel like I really nailed it. Like, just trying to be the hero, trying to force the ball. One's gonna get away from him. It's close. I'll take it though. I'll take that as a moral victory.
It was huge, and it could have been a game changer, and Sean McVay surely would have had to answer for that one, being aggressive there with such little time there in overtime. But I first thought of you, Mitch. I went right to you. I almost halfway through the text message realized it was incomplete, but would have definitely changed the landscape of this game. Well said to both of you gentlemen. That's why you guys get paid the big bucks. Great summations there. Andrew, I want to go back to a point that you brought up about you felt like Ben Johnson was kind of holding back in this one, maybe not showing all his cards. Did you guys feel like that? Were you guys a little surprised that it didn't seem like they opened up the playbook a whole lot? Obviously, not a lot of trick plays, almost no trick plays. I just felt like I was constantly waiting for them to throw a wild card out there. It seems like that's the MO of this team in the past. And maybe, that's just a maturation process. They don't need to use those plays as much to win games, and they're just going to win it more traditional fashion. But I wanted to know you guys' thoughts on that. It just felt like all night it was brewing, and it just never kind of happened.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally with Ben Johnson, what we've seen is that he'll run the same play, run the same play, run the same play, and then come in that same down and distance, come into the same formation, and then run a pass on you out of that same formation. Like that's what he's known for. And it seemed like he was doing that early on, like he was ready for the setup. And then it's almost like you're at a concert. You're waiting for that bass drop, right? You're waiting for it. You feel the build. And then there was just nothing there. And like we said, you got a little difference out of Jamo. You got a big player here or there, but that wasn't set up in the classic Ben Johnson way.
It's almost like we forgot, right? Like, this is what Ben Johnson has always done. I think there's always been these kind of complaints where it's like, what is Ben doing? Take a shot, take a shot. That's why Ben is a heralded offensive coordinator and probably a head coach. It seems like almost a guarantee next year, but if not, for sure the year after that. He is just, to build on Andrew's point, he's lulling everybody to sleep with the same formations, the same motions, up the gut, up the gut. All of a sudden, boom, deep shot, whatever it is. So, it felt like it took a while. It's first game of the season. The Rams are no slouch. I mean, you heard Dan talk about it. I think we all talked about this, on our prediction show too. The Rams are going to be a good team. The Rams are going to be a playoff team. And we saw a dude on the other side of the ball that can still absolutely sling the rock. Like, the fact that, we're talking about trying to scheme up. How can you see he was pressured on 46% of his dropbacks, I think? And he's just getting the ball out so quick. So I think you have to give your flowers to Stafford. And I think Cooper Kupp is back in a major, major way.
Yeah, speaking of Stafford, super well said there. And did you guys see what Dan said in his press conference about old Matty? About that, and it speaks to your point, Mitch, about almost 50% of his dropbacks being pressured, right? This was the quote from Dan. It's almost like you don't want to hit him because when you hit him, he seems to start playing better. And I think that's that's exactly true about Matthew. Something in him wakes up when he gets hit, and all of a sudden he plays better, and he starts slinging the rock even better than he does already.
I think Collinsworth said it last night too. He got hurt. He got the ankle a little banged up, and you saw him limping up into that huddle. And I mean, throw Honolulu blue and silver on him, and we've seen that a zillion times. And it was so familiar to watch that walk up to the huddle. And I don't know if any Rams had any indication like, oh, he may be hurt. Listen here, folks, he's not hurt. He's gonna finish this game out. That's just, it is what it is.
No, it's almost to the point where you get concerned if he doesn't have a limp. Like something's wrong if he's not coming up off of some of those hits, which by the way, were pretty rough. What'd you guys think about the hits and some of this action between both sides? I mean, Anzalone, you mentioned it in your halftime capsule. At one point I thought Anzalone and I can't remember if it was Kirby, a couple of the DBs all kind of trifecta hit there, and I thought we were about to have a triple concussion.
Yeah, the boys were absolutely flying around buzzsaw out there. That first drive from the Rams had me so amped up just with how fast and hard everybody was playing. I love it. I love the tenacity. I love the ferocity from everybody. We talked about this last year. Hutch has got to dial it back. Hutch has to figure out, I feel like he really teeters. Anzalone does this sometimes too. You just got to chill out every once in a while. I think that flag against Stafford was very well warranted. The ball was out of his hands. Like, I get you're kind of already in your motion, but just pull up, dive off to the side, do something. Other than that, though, I think that's just a couple of cleanup things, and that's just the way Hutch plays. Which, if he switches up the way he plays, is he going to be as good? I saw another crazy stat from PFF. Shout out PFF. You guys know I love them. Highest win rate in pass rush from Hutch since and from I think from any player since 2021. I think his pass rush win rate was like 40, right around 45%. It's ridiculous. The guy went off. So never mind. Disregard. Don't change.
He did go off, but I think he was going against a third stringer there at one point, and I mean, like, good on the coaching staff to put him over top of that guy, and not just to put him on the other side of the field like some coaches would do, right? Yeah, some of these hits. I mean, Anzalone, I got from the Lady Lion at one point. I think I'm watching this game solely for Anzalone. She had dropped the Rodrigo fandom for a hot second there just to watch this guy lay some hits out because he was really, really laying it. And I will say, Marcus Davenport, much larger human being than I ever thought he was going to be. And Levi, welcome back. Glad to have you. You also look like a very large human being. I didn't remember you were that big. And let me just say, I did have to text the longtime Lion as well in that game, especially when Jamo took that hit. I said, these guys are hitting way too hard out here.
You said it in your halftime capsule too. I think you basically called for less violence in the game last night.
I don't know what's going on with me in these this day and age, but I don't think I can stand to watch people get crunched anymore.
That's so weird because that was not you just a couple of years ago. That's not the Andrew I know. That is not you.
It makes me hurt on this end of the screen.
Something's changed. I don't know what's going on with the water over there, but something has changed. So yeah, you got a Fanzalone in the house nowadays. Are we gonna get a wig?
Buddy, we might just have to go as a couple Fanzalones for Halloween at this point.
Ooh. Yeah.
Shout out to Alex for getting the game ball from Dan. Dan gave out 2 game balls yesterday, one to David Montgomery and one to Alex Anzalone. I don't know if you guys caught their speeches in the post game there in the locker room. Pretty good. Monty did not want to give a speech, but did eventually give the speech and basically, gave credit to the rest of the team, as this team always kind of does with the selflessness of them all. Alex Anzalone similarly gave props to the rest of the team and also said he always thinks of the season in quarters. Back when it was 16 games, it was literally quarters. Now you got that oddball 17th game in there, which throws everything off. But, he said this, basically you go 4-0 or 3-1 in each of those quarters and you're sitting really good because you're at about, a maximum of 4 losses. I thought that was well said from Alex. And also Jamo getting the ball from NBC/Jared/ whoever. Because they gave it to Jared, who, by the way, did not have a great PFF score, Mitch.
I don't think Jared had a very good game. So, I guess good for Sunday Night Football. Misplaced, I think.
Yeah, kudos to Jared for giving it to the rightful owner of that. You could have probably given it to Jamo. I'm sure Jamo would have got a game ball from Dan had we not had the overtime from Montgomery. Monty just kind of stole it there late at the 11th hour, so to speak. Quite literally at the 11th hour for some people on the East Coast. But yeah, that was odd for me. The other thing that was odd from NBC was, I don't know if you guys caught this, Chris Collinsworth totally forgetting the NFL overtime rules. When they were marching down the field there at like the 30, he's like, now they'll start getting on that preferred hash. And Mike Tirico was like, they got to score a touchdown to end the game, though.
So the problem is, there's too much going on. Like, there's too much, now there's different rules in the playoffs. They kind of changed it a little bit. Like, just pick a format and go with it.
Yeah, but Collinsworth gets paid how much?
I stand with Collinsworth. Leave him alone, Ben.
All right, it's week 1 for everybody, I guess.
That's right.
I thought I was just delirious, to be honest with you, when I heard it.
At that hour, yes. I mean, it is late. Circling back to overtime at the start, you talked about it, the confidence level of Jared and the team with Dan smirking there after winning the toss. Tails never fails. Matthew Stafford didn't know that, obviously. What was your guys' confidence level going into overtime with the Lions getting the ball, like on a 0 to 10?
10. I mean, it's
a million.
No, I'm sorry. It was probably a 9 based on the handshake, and then when they ran the first play, a 10.
Yeah.
The second I saw that little smile on Dan Campbell's face, the game went that overtime was over, followed by the first play. And I think Brian Baldinger said it best on Twitter today. It was good old fashioned. My line is better than your line, and I'm just going to run it directly at you.
The tide finally broke. They could not. The Lions' offense was kind of bottled up for much of the ball game. Great portions of the game, especially the third quarter. They got very sleepy on offense there. Finally, they pushed through. And shout out to the defense, too, to lock it down in the fourth quarter finally, too. Showing some flashes, and we'll talk defense here in a little bit. Mitch, do you want to officially proclaim that Jamo is here? Are you ready to do that?
Texted you guys last night. I think Waymo is here. I'm gonna ignore and just kind of choose to not acknowledge what Andrew's about to say, but I mean, the dude's a freak. He's an absolute burner. That double move was disgusting. You just find ways to get the ball in his hands, which is obviously what they've been trying to do for 2 full seasons now, and now we saw what he can be. Man alive, if he goes down though, we are in trouble.
Hopefully by that point, old Tim Patrick, right? Is that his name? He's coming into form, and he's going to take up that. And I don't know if you guys noticed on this play, watch St. Brown.
Yeah.
Cooks his and eats the safety over the top.
Yeah, the whole reason this play kind of happens, right?
Yeah.
Watch the top of your screen with Jamo there, or with the separation there. It brings the safety over. Leaves the door wide open for Jamo, and
I mean, it helps with the 5 yards of separation he got.
Yeah.
I thought they threw I saw the flag, and I told Lady Lion number 2, like, oh, he pushed off. Like, there's no chance he didn't push off. He's miles away from the guy.
That's what I said. There's no way you get there. Yeah, no way you get that separation without a penalty.
And similar thoughts to you, Ben. I think you said this. Let's just get through the end zone before we start to get cutesy and then get tackled awkwardly. Let's not do that. That's no fun for us.
It's like the most awkward tackle. It looks like a video game glitch is what that looks like.
Yeah.
That is a great addition. This guy's little twig legs, he needs to be protected. Like, he needs to be running around with those little air casts on at all times.
Yeah. Did get that at one point, they go to commercial, he's down on the field. You're thinking the worst. I was trying to remain optimistic, but it didn't look great live. And then the replay gave me some hope. The replay didn't look terrible. It didn't look like ACL, MCL. It didn't look like bad injury, right? I thought maybe a minor sprain, something, right? And then he's back out there a few plays later. But to your point, Mitch, yeah, they cannot afford. They can ill afford to lose any of these guys. And Khalif Raymond, even him, right? And much to be seen from the rest of these practice squad guys. If it's going to be Tim Patrick moving up or Allen Robinson, who's to say who's that's going to be? But that's definitely their weak point. And were you guys surprised to see the lack of St. Brown, the lack of Laporta? Obviously they got a few in there down the stretch, but it was weird. It was almost like I don't know. Do you guys just chalk that up to week 1 stuff? Week 1 jitters? The fact that, just working it in, and the fact that these guys didn't get reps in the preseason?
I don't know. St. Brown, I feel like, didn't have the best game of all time. Laporta was, I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird because we don't expect it. Obviously that's where the Rams are going to focus though, right? Like, the Rams are going to queue on St. Brown. He's one of the highest paid receivers in the league, and Laporta is an absolute stud. So I think the rest of the league, now that Jamo kind of went off and had his big game, is going to have to plan for, okay, yeah, these guys can't take the top off, and they're just going to get schemed up differently. But it was really surprising, but good to know, honestly, that we can do it without St. Brown and Laporta.
1,000,000%. And I think if you guys watch this tape back, you're going to see Laporta miss so many blocks. I mean, like, bad too. Guys coming off the edge, he just whiffs on, and they're making tackles. I think Laporta just had a bad night. He's a second-year guy coming off an injury in the offseason with like what you say, Ben, no ramp up. That's why I like to see that first line get at least, or that first offense get at least one series together as a unit. I think that's what you chalk Laporta up to. As far as St. Brown, look out for him to go off against Tampa Bay. You guys remember that long catch and run he had last year against the creamsicle uniforms against them. Craig Reynolds block on that play. With Jamo taking the top off the Rams, I think Tampa Bay is going to be worried about that, and it's just going to open up St. Brown underneath for these short catch and runs.
Great point too about Laporta. Not only the injury late last year, but also tweaked it too in the offseason in training camp, I believe it was. So, at one point we were unsure if he would even be ready for week 1, based on that training camp injury, and it always seemed like he would be ready to go. It just was something he had to work through, and a lot of these guys ramped up, including the likes of DJ Reader, who we'll talk about here in a little bit when we talk defense, but. He was the only one that really didn't make it, him and Iffy. But the rest of these guys weren't 100%. And maybe that's, speaks to the lack of production that we saw at a lot of Laporta and the likes. But I think you're right, Andrew. I would, we'll probably talk about it in the next episode more on the preview for the Bucs. But I think the expectation is now that the offense has kind of clicked there late in that overtime, I think they're going to I'm looking for a continuation of that into the Bucs game. And I think they put the hurt in terms of offensive production and yards. I think you're going to see a big day from them against the Bucs, especially with it being at home. Let's talk about a few statistics while we wrap up this game and continue to talk through elements and of this game. So obviously Lions 26-20 over the Rams there. Jared Goff, your quarterback for the Lions, 18 of 28, 217 through the air. Also included a little run that we'll talk about here in a minute. Well, maybe let's talk about it right now. It's deserving of a little chat right now. My goodness, could Jared look any slower out there on that 7-yard scamper? It was only 7 yards, folks.
7 yards in a full 7 seconds.
Glaring difference between him and Jamo running. I mean, glaring difference.
That's exactly what I pointed out.
It's all they needed. And I feel like very rarely do I find myself yelling at JG to go. That was one of those situations where I'm like, go. Like, there's so much green in front of you. Just give it a shot. Please, nothing else is working. Just go.
It is an absolute last resort for him. And I don't know what it was a couple plays after that scamper that he had where he had another opportunity to, he had a good 10, 15 yards of green ahead of him, and he bypassed it yet again. He forgoed it. But, it's always great to see Jared Goff out there running it. He and Stafford actually had the same QB rating. QBRs were way different, but the QB rating about that 85. Stafford threw the ball almost 50 times.
That's crazy high for Jared.
85 quarterback rating? Yeah.
Who do you guys think played better? You guys think they played the same?
No, I think that's why they added the QBR.
Yeah, that's I don't know that I trust quarterback rating ever again at this point. Not to pick on Jared, but like, it's just, let's call spade a spade. He did not play well. I mean, other than the Jamo hookups, I think there were other balls, clearly, obviously. But there are some throws that like he needed to get back and just make. So for those two to be rated the same is a little crazy to me.
Yeah, the quarterback, the QBR, Stafford had 63 and Goff with 38. So a huge difference there. But yeah, couldn't believe that Stafford threw the ball almost 50 times. On the rushing side of things for the Lions, obviously Montgomery, the lead horse there, 17 carries for 91 yards. That's an average of 5.4. With a touchdown there late, his longest run, 21 yards. Gibbs added 40 on the ground and a touchdown. Of course, that acrobatic play early to score and keep his body off the ground to the very last second. That was actually a small little forgotten thing, I think. Just the extension that he had there. Jamison Williams added 13 yards on the ground. Khalif as well, 12. Receiving yards, Jamison Williams, the big winner there. 5 catches for 121. His longest 24, and that touchdown, or his longest 52. His average 24. The touchdown 52 yards. Laporta added a quiet 4 catches for 45. Gibbs 4 for 34, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, couldn't tell you the last time he had production this low. 3 catches for 13 yards for the sun god. We're so used to last year. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was consistently, 8 to 10 catches a game for St. Brown and about 115 yards every game, day in, day out. You were pretty much guaranteed he was going to be over 100 in with 8 to 10 catches. Just a PPR god out there. But yeah, you got to hope that this offense figures it out and comes to form after a slow start here.
I think they'll be fine. I think something that a lot of people are forgetting, ignoring, not one offensive line starter played in the preseason at all. Not at all. I mean, I think, again, lots of rust. That's a tough look. I know Dan is not a preseason guy. I think that's okay if you have, like, Panthers week 1. I think when you're going against another playoff team in the Rams, and obviously it worked out, but it showed. Obviously, it showed. I think the offensive line struggled a bit too. I mean, they started with a 3-and-out. I think that 3-and-out was a momentum killer after the defensive stops that they got on the Rams 3-and-out. So they'll be fine. They'll shake off the rust. Obviously, again, if nothing else, the defense is tired in overtime, but it was the thing of beauty. Overtime was just magical to watch. Like that is why that offensive line is regarded as the best in the NFL. They just dominated in that entire drive. So they'll figure it out. I think they'll be fine. Everybody's got some rust to shake off, but again, that's going to come when you don't play the preseason at all.
Yeah, I think he's going to be just fine, and same with you, Mitchell. I don't think it's anything really to look into. I mean, the biggest thing of note, right? He lost Josh Reynolds. He had Josh Reynolds when he was in LA. It's been his safety blanket for years on years on years. It was like if he couldn't get anything going, get a quick completion for 8 yards to Josh Reynolds. That seemed to be like the MO for him for a while. And maybe that's what it takes. Maybe that just takes him finding his new safety blanket. Is it Amon-Ra? He's been hitting him forever. Is it going to be Laporte's? Is it going to be Jamo now that he's there? Like, maybe that's what he's just figuring it out. So the sooner he figures it out, the better. But I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think Laporta. I think he's gonna play that role. He's gonna have to play that role more so than Amon-Ra. I think he's just gonna get too much attention, right? We've called him third down St. Brown so many times. That's who he leaned on in those portions. But you're right. Josh Reynolds is going to be sorely missed, and I think you saw some of his impact here. Mentioned it in the pregame show, prediction show, I guess I should say. I said, I think Josh Reynolds had about 8 catches in that game, over 100 yards for sure. And I said, somebody's got to fill that void. Jamo filled that void, 121 yards there through the air. Yeah, also in predictions, I got to give a little shout out here to the shareholders. Every week we predict the games. We add a poll down below here on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, you can also comment. Shout out to some of the commenters that have left comments. You know who you are, but also you can vote in these polls. We had actually a pretty good response rate for the last episode, and so shout out to the shareholders. We had 80% of our shareholders picking the Lions to win by 47 points. You were in the right range. They won by 6. So shout out to you guys, and everybody took the Lions. Nobody took the Rams. That's always good to see too. We all took the Lions here in this one. So shout out to us, 1-0 there. We'll get to our full records here in a little bit. But yeah, that was that. In terms of offense, I think they'll come around. Let's talk to the other side of the ball. Let's talk defense here a little bit. Mitch highlighted it. Great start, 3-0, only for the offense on the Lions side of things to kind of match that and kind of make it a moot point. But shout out to them for the 3-0 start. You can kind of feel this identity of this new look defense. A lot of guys out there who haven't played together. A lot of guys who haven't played in the NFL, a lot of young guys out there, a lot of rookies out there, and tackling a big issue too that we'll talk about. But as a whole, folks, what did you guys make of the defense, albeit with a lot of new guys, new places, and new positions?
We talked about it, right? Like, it's going to take these guys a while to gel and mesh. Lots of bend, don't break. Bend to the absolute capacity that you can bend without breaking a few times. I mean, Stafford still put up Stafford numbers over 300, picked him apart. Cooper Kupp went absolutely off. If you had Cooper Kupp in a PPR fantasy league, good for you, because he just, receptions alone, just racked it up. There's stuff like quick hitter defensive takes from me. There's stuff we've talked about before. If Aaron Glenn doesn't start running some tackling drills in practice, I'm going to lose my mind. I mean, you see this all over the NFL, but this has been plaguing them since last year. So I think the tackling is an opportunity. Brian Branch had a terrible game. Brian Branch did not play good. I think it's the switch from cornerback to safety, and maybe it's a little bit of rust. I think he dropped 2 interceptions. He had some missed tackles in some big spots. Again, it's going to take some time. You got some new guys out there. I think Terrion, you saw Ben earlier in the week talk about how they try to pick on Terrion in practice, and he's sticky. Yeah, maybe a little too sticky. That's what makes Terrion Terrion. That's why he's so good in man. That's why they picked him up in the draft, and he was their first round pick. But they'll figure it out. I think Terrion will find his groove. I think Branch will find his groove in safety. Lots of rust. Lots of guys trying to figure their spots out. I like Davenport from an opposite side rush of Hutch. That's a great addition. And it's just, we have to keep in mind that someone like a player like DJ Reader makes all the difference. I mean, it's a third down situation, and all of a sudden you got DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, Hutch, Davenport, secondary flying around. Where do you go with the ball? Definitely some growing pains. I believe they'll figure it out. I do have some questions about AG's ability to adjust in game, though. I think death by 1,000 paper cuts. Stafford and Kupp just dicing him up. Guess what? They're going to run the motion. Guess what's going to come off the motion? It's either going to be a 5 to 6 yard route by Kupp, or they're going to hand it off. You got to figure it out. You got to find a way to scheme that up. Some of it, like we talked about, is just Stafford's ability to get the ball out fast and sling it to guys. But I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully AG progresses, because I can't blame it on the talent anymore. You went and fixed the talent portion of your defense. So got to find a way to hold guys to less points when it matters most.
All in all, I'm going to say, I have a little more silver lining than Mitch. Mitch seems kind of glum about him, to be honest with you folks. I don't know if that's because Mufasa, James Earl Jones, passed away today. Maybe that's put a little mud in his Cheerios right now. I thought the defense performed pretty well. Let's not forget, this is a playoff team they just played against from just a year ago. They've got what seems to be a future Hall of Fame quarterback on their team. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and they held him to 20 points. I thought this young defense did pretty good. Did we think Terrion was going to get beat over the top a few times? Absolutely. Did he? Absolutely. Did he have some I know he had one. Did he have 2 pass interference?
Yes.
2 pass interferences that I think ultimately led to 10 points.
Okay.
Which again it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. I think he did okay. I will say the couple times they got beat over the top, it was almost like a sigh of relief where it was, oh, now Matthew can't go deep. This defense can stop the run. They've only got 20 yards to work with here. They made their way down to the red zone. We can hold them to a field goal at this point in time. And that's what it felt like, if they were to get beat over the top. That defense never quits. I mean, they held him at the 1 yard line and then got the turnover. I mean, the defense will never quit. I think they performed very well. I think they're going to go up. Mitch, to your point, though, you know what Aaron Glenn is, and he's never going to change, and this is his MO, and it feels like Dan loves it because he loves the diaper games, and he will, like he says, drag you into the abyss.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with you in the regard that they didn't play poorly. Red zone defense played great. Like that. So I will say that red zone defense played well. But this is against guys off the street on the offensive line, and Puka Nacua goes down early, and you're still getting diced up. That's my thing. Like, they shouldn't have been able to do what they did. And AG is clearly in the Dan Campbell school of motivation. Like, they aren't going to quit. And you heard Dan say it, you ain't going to break us. Like, that's the Lions' MO. But at a certain point, that's what Dan is there for. Like, Dan is the like the rah-rah guy for this team. We need coordinators that are X's and O's. Ben does it on offense. AG is going to have to start doing it better on defense. But I agree. I don't think they played terribly. I just think, sometimes AG's decisions and lack of in-game switches or changes, adjustments are detrimental to the team.
Well said from both of you. Andrew, to your point about AG, I think he is a beloved guy. I think that is evident from the grades that we saw. I think it was last year. Remember they gave the grades for the D coordinators. They gave Aaron Glenn an A. I think he was rated number 1 or at the top for all teams, and that was all kind of coming at a surprise for us. He is, as far as a player's coach, he is loved. But I think to Mitch's point, he's not the coordinator that Ben Johnson is that on the other side of the ball. Like we've talked about it in the past, you're not going to win because of Aaron Glenn. He's never going to bring this team up or this defense up to that level. They're going to have to bring themselves up to that level. I think you can get it done with Aaron Glenn, but he's not going to be the reason why they, if they do eventually end the deal, close the deal and win a Super Bowl, I don't think anybody's going to be saying it's because of Aaron Glenn. He's a part of it, but he's not going to be the main reason why they win a Super Bowl.
I think Aaron Glenn will be a better head coach than he is defensive coordinator.
I agree. Yeah, because he can play that role like Dan does.
I can get behind that. Let me ask you guys this question because I almost bought a jersey last night. Did you think you were going to get a Kirby Joseph celebration before he took the knee?
I'm just glad he took the knee. Whatever happens before or after is not my concern.
Well, Andrew, that was one of your that was something you were going to keep track of this year, right? I think you mentioned it in a previous episode. You were looking for number 1 there. The other thing you were tracking, we didn't mention this in the offensive segment, was first drive touchdowns was it first drive touchdowns or scores?
Scores, I believe.
Scores, points.
Gave himself some leeway there.
0 for 1.
Yeah.
0 for 1 on that.
Buddy, did I know it immediately. I was so pumped up. Said, here comes this defense, pumping this crowd up, gonna put so much behind it. And then they came out and absolutely stunk the bed on that first drive. And they can only have 3 more of those, or else we're not going to make it there. That's
not a hole you wanted to start in.
No.
I'll say this about Joseph, though. Again, the fact that he took a knee, because for those who watched the Slip and Slide Fest Friday night, perfect example of Jair Alexander getting a pick in the end zone, should have taken a knee. He tried to bring it out, and they got the ball at the 12-yard line. I mean, it's a great example. Like, take the knee, take the yards. So shout out to Kirby for that and the pick, obviously.
Shout out to Kirby too. Did you guys see this? This lore, this theory that's going around.
It's a freezing cold take. It's a freezing cold take. I think I'm gonna finish what Ben's saying with a little rant here. The take is, or the theory is, that when they wear the all blues, they're too hard to see because the end zone is blue and the walls are blue. Just like, I mean, a ton of other stadiums. I think if you ask Stafford, he would just laugh and be like, no, I made a bad throw. Like, I didn't see him there. That's on me. If only he were wearing a silver helmet and white arm sleeves on both arms. Stop.
I don't know. I kind of buy into this, Andrew. What do you think?
I think I take it with a grain of salt. I think it's one of those things, kind of how I almost thought Gibbs was a professional stock photo model there for Jared Goff's line. Just kind of a first glance, there's my receiver, and you don't really think anything of it, and you let it, and like as you're slinging it, it's kind of one of those where it's oh no. And but I would guarantee he would say, no, I saw him there, and I just put it a little lower than I wanted to.
Yeah. In the upper echelon of quarterbacks with Matthew Stafford, you got to imagine he's seeing this guy here. However, I think for some quarterbacks in this league, Sam Darnold maybe falls for this.
That's a wild person to pick on. Sam Darnold popped off yesterday.
I'd take Bryce Young for 100 of those.
And it's the Giants, man. It's the Giants.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Which, by the way, why did I pick the Giants? I don't know. Why did we all pick the Giants?
If we're going to say anything about the Giants, can we get it out of the way? Those uniforms were
terrible.
Disgusting.
Terrible.
They deserve
I don't even mind like the jersey itself, but you basically just stole Michigan's helmets, and then it looks like you literally robbed a museum for the pants. The jerseys are whatever. Like, whatever. It is what it is.
We were driving on the way back, and I was getting this described to me. And I was told it's the purple and gold team playing the gold, blue, and red team. And I'm like, Who? Who's
Watching the
who's
UFL?
playing off that?
a fair-
Yeah, you know
fair
they got the
question.
blue and red striped jerseys with gold pants. That's not
Fair.
a team.
Fair question. You guys,
Shout
I
out to
wanted.
the Lady Lion
Oh, go ahead.
for those descriptions.
Yeah, it's actually pro. I want to talk about special teams because I just threw this in here.
Can I make one more point about the defense,
Oh my god,
if I may, before we jump ahead here?
it's just exhausting.
I just want to say,
sometimes.
to your point about the lackluster, the beat up offensive line for the Rams, I think that is a genuine concern going forward for the Lions and these teams that they're going to play on offense via their defense. That is something to watch for. The fact that they were still struggling against some of these guys that probably never expected to play any actual game time in the NFL. So I will say that, and I will say credit to Sean McVay for elevating his team like he does. He's a good coach. Special teams.
Special teams. Bates had a great game. I love it. Settled him down. It's a kicker we needed. I mean, again, I think it gives Dan some pause. Obviously, Dan's gonna Dan and be aggressive on fourth down. We saw it. That's why we love him. That's why sometimes we hate him, but mostly love him. Jack Fox is an absolute stud. Ennis Rakestraw owes Jack Fox a beer, a back rub, a vacation, and a new car because Jack Fox dropped one of the best punts I've ever seen, and
Hold on.
Ennis Rakestraw
That was
just
Rakestraw.
lost all. Yes,
It was Rake.
lost all control of his limbs and just titty bumped the ball through the back of the end zone. All you had to do was hit the brakes, hover over the ball, and then just down it like that. They were going to be down at the 3-yard line, and he just came in so hot. He owes him a massive apology. Plus everything else I already said.
He's a rookie. He's out there trying to make a play. He's flying
Oh,
around
dude,
out
good
there.
Lord, it's like he's never touched a ball before, dude. He's a D1. He's a D1 stud. In high school, he was probably scoring touchdowns all over the place, tearing people up. Just relax, bud. Just relax.
Game one, and he probably hasn't played special teams in years. Playing the CB1 role there in college. I doubt he was playing special teams. I doubt it.
Can you imagine how big his eyes were when he was coming in there too? I mean, just saucer plates on the guy. Oh my God, I'm getting that ball.
Yes, I feel like that's got to be so demoralizing if you're Jack Fox too, because Jack Fox is gonna go up to him like, "Oh, no worries, dude. Like it's all good," and he's probably like, "God, it's so like just so pissed off." That's what I wanted to talk about. But Bates was a great story. Again, just I think the accuracy was a reason for concern, but he did exactly what he needed to do last night. Put points up on the board when they called on him. Again, Fox is just an absolute stud. But yeah, come on.
Speaking of
Ennis.
Bates, did you guys pay attention to any of the kickoffs? He took kind of a couple different approaches on him.
He did all right. Yeah, he was experimenting with some stuff. I'm not sold, but I'm not against. I was a fan of the new kickoff. Obviously, we got the one touchdown yesterday, which is super fun. But I think overall more touchbacks week one year over year than last year. So what I think needs to happen to like de-incentivize this, why are touchbacks at the 30-yard line? Why wouldn't you just do it keep it at the 20? Because then there's more incentive for teams to. If I'm a coach, I'm like, if that thing looks like it's even going to come close to the end zone, don't touch it. Don't even look at it. I think that's the adjustment they need to make, and we're going to see more returns.
Yeah, they keep moving that back. It was the 20, then it was the 25, and now it's the 30.
I don't understand that, but I did notice that, Andrew. I kind of
You
hope
would think.
he keeps toying with it.
You would think in the NFL they love numbers. They would want more numbers. You make that field bigger. You start them at the 20 or the 25. That's more yards, more offensive production.
Yeah, I don't
guess
get it. That seems like a simple fix. Unless you guys think otherwise. I feel like that's pretty easy. That's low-hanging fruit.
No, I agree. I can't think of a reason why. I mean, it's not a safety thing for them to only go 70 yards versus 75 or 80. I don't know. I don't know why. I guess there's some sort of ratio formula they've got to develop to, like you said, incentivize or decentivize. I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. And it's just another nuance of like, oh, kickoff touchback is the 30-yard line. This touchback is the 20-yard line. Like, it's just too much. We're overcomplicating things.
What was there more touchbacks this year? I thought NBC had a graphic that said 24% of kicks were taken out last year, and it was like 36% so far this week one.
Oh, I may not have checked the full week. I may have just checked the 1 o'clock slot. So it's on me. This is low level analysis here.
Yeah, we need the high level. We had the high level analysis on that Jamo clip. Yeah, Bates 2 for 2 on the day, including the kick to send it to overtime, the much bigger one of the two, obviously. Shout out to Andrew. Andrew, in your prediction, you called for Bates to make a game winner. We kind of got that. We got a pseudo game winner there, a game tire to send it to overtime. Certainly a big bonus there on that kick. Fox, as you mentioned, Mitch, 57.5 average on his punts there, would have bumped it up a little bit more if Rakestraw could have raked that one in. But he did have a 67-yard boot there too as his longest of the day. Huge day from Fox. Huge day, and Dan highlighted it in the locker room after, which is always great. Those guys don't always get enough credit on the special teams there. Oh yeah, the uniforms. You guys think the uniforms were great? I thought they were great. Like, we've seen them in the preseason. We knew what these were going to be about, but it just seemed like, I don't know, it just seemed like it added a little extra attitude, especially on defense. I thought a little extra pop on those jerseys, I thought.
I like them, but I want to see the actual uniform. We've seen the blueberries. That's too close to the blueberries from last year. Obviously, the shoulders are great. I think they look really good. I'm a fan of the blue face masks. I know some people aren't. I like the blue face mask, but I want to see the silver. I want to see the silver pants. I want to see the full thing. Give me the full feel.
I'm not much of a uniform guy. These small little details don't make a difference to me. I will say I did notice the shoulders. For an everyday cash, though, don't think you're noticing those or the face mask, to be honest with you.
Yeah, depending on how large of a TV, if you get the 4K package, all those things play into that. What do you guys think about the black alternates that they have teased us, and we didn't get the blackout game in this one? Probably didn't want to bring it out in week one, but I'm thinking, what do you guys think about this? Week 4, your Monday night matchup against the Seahawks. It's at home. Calvin Johnson's going to get his number put in the rafters, and he's going to get, elected into the Lions Den of Fame or whatever the heck it's called.
Say less.
I think you guys think I'm onto something there? You think that's the game where they unveil the black alternates?
I think you are speaking it into existence, sir.
I 100% agree. Everything makes sense. Megatron is back in the good graces, or the Lions are back in Megatron's good graces. I think it's pride of the Lions' pride. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
that's their
the
hall.
pride.
That's like their Hall of Fame. The pride. Yeah. So, I think you're right. I think you're right, and I think even though we've kind of pointed out what we don't like, I think I'm still gonna love it. I think they're still gonna look incredible.
Yeah, I think in the right format. A night game, obviously it's in a dome, so it doesn't play the same, but it still kind of has that feel. Monday Night Football, week 4, a Seahawks team that's had their number the last couple years. You get Calvin in the building, you bring him into the ring of honor, the pride, as you call it. Too many good vibes for that not to end in a W. You throw a black alternate uniform in there, a little specialty. I think that's the time to do it. I think that results in a W there. Mitch, you gave us the shout out on this one. The offensive line of the Lions, a lot of them have one or multiple kids. A lot of fathers on that offensive line. Mitch, you, a father yourself, the only one on this podcast that we know of. Balancing fatherhood, playing football, pretty cool. If you guys want to check it out, it was on NBC today, literally today at the Today Show. But Mitch, what can you say about being a father? Like, how do you think these guys do it? Playing a sport that is as intense as football, and also, just such a time and resource sucker in a job that, is so high demanding.
First of all, shout out to the dog dads out there. So let's not discredit yourselves.
Thank you.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I have to imagine that even though these guys are just massive human beings, they have to be just like dead on Mondays. I mean, they're probably just getting attacked. It's like, especially the O-line. These guys are in the trenches. So shout out to them. They probably have incredible wives. I think that's definitely key to being able to be a good dad, is a great other half. If you're divorced, I guess sorry, even more work. I don't know. I'm talking myself in a weird corner here. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, good for them. I think those guys. It's awesome. I think if you watch the segment, it's really cool to hear to talk about like Ragnall's the most recent father, and he's like, it's great to just lean on these guys, and we really are all brothers. And obviously Zeitler's one of the Hall of Fame dads for doing pass sets while his wife was in labor. So fits in great with the squad up front.
I had forgotten that he was that one. Obviously he was with the Ravens at that time, and I forgot when the Lions signed him that was him.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
so shout out to him to shout out to all the dads. Why is
I
this so
thought
loud?
I thought that was a certain somebody shaking his ears. I didn't even know didn't think that was a clap at first.
Don't you dare. Speaking of the offensive line, though, and stats to track, I believe no injuries and nobody sat a play out. One intact unit through and through.
Sewell had a little limp for a second, but he got over it. It's good to see.
Yeah, that is always of the utmost importance, not only on the offensive line but across the board. And yeah, that's great to see. You need more of that. You got an early bye this year, so the boys got to be endurance and fatigue and strength-wise. You got to be strong with that early bye. You're not going to have the benefit of a late bye where you get that little week in there. You do have a couple Thursday games in there. Hopefully that results in some good 10-day, kind of mini buys. That's all we can really hope for. But stay healthy, boys. Stay healthy out there. So in the past, we put our halftime capsules in here, and I think we're going to do it. The way we record these shows now, we do them a little differently. So we're gonna be here while we listen to these. So might be a little weird, guys, but we're just gonna put them in here.
Halftime capsule, week 1, Sunday Night Football against the Rams. Bit of a slow start. I feel like that's Ben Johnson playing chess, not checkers, setting up a lot of the play action and getting the ball into Jamo and Gibbs' hands later in the first half to kind of open up the speed, open up the playbook a little bit. Don't like the chunks that the Rams are getting. It's going to be a different second half with the offensive line injuries that they've got. Stafford banged up. Good to see Jamo back on the field. Just gotta open up the playbook a little bit more on offense. Again, setting it up long term with Ben Johnson. Don't like the mistakes. Seems like they're almost trying to beat themselves at the end. Bit of a mistake there by Hutch. Likes to hit guys late. Don't let it catch up to you. Just got to play your game. Keep playing in the second half. I love the secondary is looking good. Not bending, not breaking, but got to put some points on the board. Pull away in this one. Go Lions.
Great stuff from Mitch there.
Spot on analysis. Yep.
High level, if some would say. Andrew, this is you.
All right, shareholders, here we are. First halftime capsule of the year. And boy, was it shaky to start, but that's how the Lions do. A little rocking. And now we're doing a little bit of rolling right here.
Love it.
Honestly, we just got to see what develops. I think they just keep teasing with that run, keep pounding it with Montgomery, and then keep hit him deep with a few passes late. Getting a little worried. Those little twig legs on Jamo scare me tremendously. Let's just stay healthy. Everybody's hitting a little too hard out there for my liking tonight, especially Anzalone. When I say too hard, I mean on the Ram side. Anzalone, you're killing it. Hutch, let's get a couple more sacks. And Kirby, boy, what an interception to end half. I thought we were going to get a celebration before you went down. Let's go finish this game out, Lions. Let's go.
Another phenomenal performance there. A little rock, a little roll. Love that line. Probably my favorite halftime capsule line of all time. I also caught the little foreshadowing in there. Just keep pounding it with Montgomery. And that's what they did down the stretch. Shout out to you. And this is me.
All right,
on a
halftime
dog walk.
capsule, mid-dog walk here. Hopefully the Lions dog
Little
walk
noise on
the
this
Rams
one.
in the second half. How about that? We've got a Kirby Joseph INT right before the half. Huge. Got to have the turnover. Got to win that battle, of course, as always. For me, the Lions got to go out and win this game. Look, the Rams are beat up. They just lost their left tackle. They're out a couple guys on the offensive line. Puka Nacua is hurt again. So it's really no excuses for me. If you look at the numbers, the Rams have about 40 yards more in offense. I look for that to change in the second half. I think the Lions take over on offense, take advantage of some of those miscues from the Rams there right before the half, and the Lions get the ball out of the half. So I need points
Dodge
out of the
Charger
half
again.
here. And look for a Lions victory. I think they take advantage of that. They put up the numbers. The numbers bump up here. I think the offense takes care of business in the second half. Defense locks it down. Defense, new identity, loving it. They got work to do still, but you can see the flashes. And shout out to Jamo for the little spark plug there early in the first half. I think the points and the offense lights up in the second half. The defense locks down, and we're talking about a Lions victory out of here. No excuses. Big time game. You got to win the ones like this.
You gotta win the ones like this, and that they did. That went pretty well for us to listen to those. I thought that went okay.
That is a great point, though, and Dan would probably echo that. You got to find a way to win those one possession tight games like that.
Yeah, if you want to be considered a top 5 team, an upper echelon, a potential Super Bowl winner, you have to win these games, especially at home in prime time. It's just going to be different, sitting 0-1 to start the season with the early bye. You really got to come out strong these first 4 weeks before the bye. I think that's key to a long season and a long production from all elements of this team. All right, so that was the halftime capsules. Let's talk about our BAM players of the weeks. We've got the BAM's players of the week, and that is from the S is from you, the shareholders. So we're going to need you all to vote down below to be the BAMs, make this the BAMs. So let's start with me for the B in that. This is tough. I had Jamo written down, and then Monty once again stole it there in overtime. So maybe I'll give a tie. A 3-way tie between Jamo, Monty, and the offensive line.
I guess the A will come up into this now. I'm gonna give it to my boy, and I'm joining the Fanzalone crew. Give it to Anzalone. He came out hitting. He got the defense. He set the tone for him. And then let's give it up to the Rams offensive line for not showing up. Rob Havenstein in particular. He's a Littlefield Lake alum, so got to give him a shout out there. And then one last one for the fans at home. Got to give it to the Ford Field employees. I saw fans lined up prior to 5 o'clock for entrance to this game. Total commitment, not a single injury on the day that's been reported. So good to them. Everybody got out of there, got home safely.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple. I think, although I agree with you guys, I think Monty, I think it's just like a different, Ben, you kind of let it off at the top of the show. It's just a different animal. Like, he just wants the ball. And it's not just that. He's just running straight. There's nothing fancy about what he did in overtime after playing the whole game. The ability to hand it off to Gibbs and give Monty those little breaks, and Campbell said it like, if someone asked me this the other day, I just said, like, you can start the game with this guy and finish the game with this guy. He runs as hard at the end of the game and overtime as he does at the start of the game, and it showed. Combined with the offensive line, they just crushed in overtime. So my ball goes to Monty.
100%. And maybe just maybe Monty's, he's got an early bedtime. He just wanted to go to bed. He just wanted that game over with. That's what it felt like. He was running like a man possessed out there. Good for him. Shareholders, do your job. Do your duty. Vote below on Spotify. Let's go to week one. Let's hurry. Let's do a little no huddle offense here in week one. Yes.
We can give a little shout out. We got some time to give a little shout out.
We got a little time. Okay, producer says
Andrew,
we got a little time.
You want to do this?
No.
Okay, sounds
all
good.
You guys.
All right. Well, I don't know if this gentleman wants to be named, so we'll just call him JW.
Oh, this shout out.
In the comment section.
Shout out. I thought we were going for something else. Didn't know what we were talking about.
What other shout
out? Oh, okay. Well, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, random shout outs all the time. It happens all the time. We'll keep him nameless, but he is a shareholder. He just moved to Arizona. We know who you are. I don't know what else to say about him. I know he's going to be at the Cardinals game, so we got it. We'll be talking about it here in a couple weeks. We'll kind of hold it for that. I'll have to reach out to him, get his take, kind of what he's thinking when we get a little bit closer there. But we are thinking of you, shareholder.
Yeah, so a few questions from this shareholder that I'd love to answer, and if you guys would humor me. First thing, Dan Campbell being coach of the year, is that a reality? It should be. I don't think it is. I think if they win the Super Bowl, would be the only the only reason they get it. And obviously they tossed those out, I think before that, if I'm not mistaken. So, um, or just like a ridiculous 15-2 season. I think if he was going to get it, it would have been last year. I think what you see more often than not is coaches coaching through adversity or, trying to figure out a way to get wins when they shouldn't. The Lions don't really have that, so I don't see it happening. I think they would legitimately have to go like 15-2 for Dan to be coach of the year. I don't know what you guys think, but that's where I'm at. I think unfortunately he's not going to get it. Last year would have been the year.
100% agree. 100% agree.
It's an uphill battle.
Yeah,
it's tough. I think your early coach of the year candidate, unfortunately, it should always be Dan. And you're right, Mitch. It just feels like it's kind of late for that now. They're not in that point where they would. And a Super Bowl would certainly put him into the conversation. But like you said, they do those before that. So the NFL honors is before that. So I will say this: early coach of the year candidate probably going to be Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Jim Harbaugh or Matt LaFleur. I think Matt LaFleur might snag this one, especially if they can figure out a way to get back in the playoffs with Jordan Love missing 3 to 4 weeks here. And, they waited until 5 minutes before the season started to sign Malik Willis. I think if they can manage through that, that's a huge accomplishment. I think Matt LaFleur is honestly overshadowed. That's not hometown bias, although shout out to the MP Dogs out there. Although we almost lost to an MP Dog last night, Mike LaFleur, maybe back her down next time we play the Lions. But yeah, I don't think it'll happen, which sucks again, unless they go crazy this year, which maybe they could. Second thing, what are the top 2 concerns with the overall team going into this year that could cause some caution? Number 1, wide receivers. I think I speak for all 3 of us. Wide receivers and the overall depth, options all over the offense. But I think wide receivers is a huge caution for me. Andrew?
I'll throw my second one on top of the wide receivers. It's the backup quarterback battle. We've had this conversation. There's a lot of bad things that can happen there.
Yeah, I like it. I think you could point to depth in other places, but I think you're right. We're seeing it with the Packers. Like, you have Jordan Love, who's in the MVP candidate and has a lot of people picking the Packers to win the NFC North. Jordan Love goes down, and now people basically are like, yeah, we might have to pack it in on the Packers. I hate that I just did that, but
no pun intended.
Similar to the Jets last year. I mean, you lose Jordan Love, and Malik Willis can only hand the ball off or maybe do. Man, he looked bad. So we'll see. So I'm with you, Andrew. I think those would be my top 2 concerns.
Boys, we just got some breaking news here, and maybe it's not breaking to you, and I might be late to the party. Christian McCaffrey is inactive for Monday night's game against the Jets.
Fantasy football nightmare.
Lady Lion, I'm yelling a little louder. I apologize. I did suggest she draft him 1 overall and play him. I actually gave her the guaranteed nod. He's going to play tonight, and that's going to be a tough one to break. Apologies.
Anybody want to change their pick to the Jets?
I'm sorry, we're
all on the 49ers.
Pardon my takes. I might have to think about this. I might change. Oh, man, that's a huge... Elijah Mitchell's no joke. Don't get me wrong. I think they still have some weapons all over the place, but no, I'm not going to pick Aaron Rodgers.
Smart man.
Let's finish off the shareholders' last question. Lastly, feeling like we have been the hunter in past years. Fact, trying to get things done after the going to the championship. Feeling like we would be hunted, and how will that affect our schedule? I don't know that it affects the schedule. I think the biggest effect on the schedule is the fact that we have a week 5 bye, which is absolutely criminal. But I think I think you nailed it. I think we are the hunted. I think people are probably, if I had to guess, sick of like the feel good story of the Lions. I don't think anybody's sleeping on the Lions anymore. I think that he's absolutely right. And like, we are the hunted. But what I love is that's not going to change the way a DC coach team thinks. They are still the hunter. I think Andrew just had to apologize to the Lady Lion.
When you have to tell Mitchell you're going to get there, but it seemed like the news went as well as like telling your child their goldfish is dead.
Yeah, that's the tough part about Monday Night Football. You can't get that back. You can't go back to Sunday and put the backup in.
If we can go ahead and find a silver lining in all of it, I did have to play him in a separate league. And boys, am I going to get the W at this point? Let's go!
It's
Yeah,
lock it
good
in.
for you.
Lock it in. To your point, Mitch, about the questions, I didn't get to answer the last one about the top two concerns, so thank you for that. But I will take my two concerns as one Aaron and two Glenn, but also the wide receivers.
Wow.
Yeah. The hunter. I prefer to be the hunter. It is a better role. I think it's more natural for this team, but I think, Mitch, you nailed it, and I will echo your point there, and I will say, to add to that, we saw what this team did when they were knocked out of playoff contention. First year of this podcast, Dan Campbell and the boys go into Lambeau and, shut the Packers' door, playoff hopes' door. Even when the Lions had virtually nothing to play for, they were already eliminated. So I think that squashes any concerns for me. But I do think you'll get an elevated opponent here, just kind of like you did with the Rams. Even down a couple guys, they still got their best shot from the Rams. I think you get a better punch from some of these teams, but I think that the Lions are ready for that punch and the subsequent counterpunch that comes from them.
I'm going to give a quick retroactive shout out to a certain shareholder that called in to call for Dan Campbell's head during that season.
You know who you are.
That's an ouch salad,
you can't do revisionist history.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with both of you guys. I would love to be the hunted. Excuse me, the hunter. Excuse me, the hunter. That's the phrase I went.
And we've reached the classic Lions share moment of the night.
Yes. We are over an hour. We are officially over an hour. This is where it gets weird. Let's move into week one. Mitch, your leader right now as it stands before Monday Night Football starts. He's 11-4. I'm 9-6. Andrew's 9-6, trailing right behind. All of us above 500. We love that. The Titans imploded against the Bears. I've got a quote in here from Titans head coach Brian Callahan. If we just punted it on 1st and 10 every time, we might have won the game. That is a great quote.
That's an incredible quote.
Is
that's
that real?
All time. Yo, that's real. That is from his presser. I mean, so disappointing to I was so ready to relish in Bears fans just yeah, sucks. Might be some growing pains. Obviously, Caleb Williams is going to figure it out and he's going to get better. But I think it's hilarious that they struggled as much as they did. Oh, but the Titans just stink out loud. That was terrible. Terrible.
Let me tell you how excited I was to toss the Will Levis hate fan at you guys, and I was very excited to be all over that bandwagon, and I can't seem to find the door to get off this thing fast enough.
It was bad. It was the tale of two halves there. They had him in the first half. Will Levis just imploding. That play where he is on his knees, not a good look for him. The Bears luckily have a solid defense, and that defense won them the game. Caleb Williams with only 93 yards passing. Don't know why he's getting the credit for that one.
They look bad. Their offense looked bad. No, that game sucked to watch. That was a comedy show.
Yeah.
I mean, no redeeming qualities. We had Keenan Allen just dropping like a 2-yard pass that just went directly off his hands. Great pass by Caleb Williams. I'll give him the credit there.
What his one? Because let's not forget that Keenan Allen was wide open for a touchdown, and he overthrew him by 10 yards.
Couple times.
Yeah.
And the one was pretty egregious, but there were a couple other opportunities where he just straight up missed the guys.
It's pretty bad. Ben, do you want to talk about the Jags? Your pick.
Is that in here? I don't think that's in the notes here, but yeah, let's talk about it. No.
Blow it.
Yeah, they ruined my first half of the Sunday there with that one. I was feeling good. First half, I was telling the Lady Lion 3.0, this is what we need to happen. This is the Battle of Florida. Jacksonville's looking like the team of Florida right here. They're looking solid, and then they fumble the ball through the end zone and crush my hopes and dreams because that score would have probably won them the game. So
well, seriously, and the biggest thing was the next play was Tyreek Hill's 80-yard bomb.
Yeah,
that was the game.
Like he was running from the police. He was out there running fast. Bengals. Did you see that quote from him? About he's like, imagine if I wasn't to Tyreek Hill.
I did not see that. I know he wants to be a cop.
Yeah, that was in that same press conference. He said, imagine if I wasn't Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Do you guys think the Bengals suck?
Listen, I was flipping back and forth between a few games here. Andrew is a hard yes on that. It didn't look good. I think it's a little bit of both. I think the Patriots are better than we thought they were going to be. They looked like a team, a competent team, 7-8 win team, in my opinion. This is what the Bengals do, though. They suck for the first 4 games of the year, and then they just figure it out and start ripping people apart. The problem is the Bengals are at a certain point are really going to have to invest in an offensive line for Joe Burrow.
And you thought that was going to happen, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think at this point, people are going to be starting to call for Zach Taylor's job.
I 100% agree. I think if they can't figure it out and win at least a playoff game this year, he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the haircut for Joe Burrow is starting to look stupid.
Ooh, yeah, tough look to bleach your hair and then not play well. But again, I don't know that it's all his fault. I think he needs a little bit of time to throw the ball.
With those contracts, it's all his fault.
Here's a team that actually sucks. The Panthers actually suck. They are we thought, the Patriots and the Panthers might be 1 and 2 or 1A and 1B. No, like you said, Mitch, Patriots look like they could win 6 games this year. Panthers look like they could win 0 games in the UFL, let alone the NFL.
I mean, how classic.
So we're back to, I think if we need to figure out the UFL thing, figure out a way for the UFL to stick around and relegate the worst team. Like I'm all for that. I think that would be awesome. Do you know who the Panthers are? The Panthers are the Lions. That's what they have a terrible owner, and let's just face it. Yeah. Let's call a spade a spade. We did not have a good owner. We just didn't. We had an owner that was in it for the money, and that was it. Dave Tepper is a turd, and they just find themselves in purgatory. I think Bryce Young, I mean, if he doesn't figure it out, and I mean really 180, it's over. They're gonna draft first quarterback off the board, goes to the Panthers next year. Sucks for Bryce Young, sucks for the Panthers. Dave Tepper's a turd. And the
that's crazy.
Monster.
That's crazy.
Mute monster.
That was wild.
Monster.
The Panthers are going to be bad for a decade at this point. Mitchell, you're right. David Tepper is basically Dan Snyder. Gets mad at fans, throws drinks at them, isn't going to change anything inside the organization. And that's been the biggest difference that, to your point, what people are saying about the Lions. They came in and changed the front management. Players want to be there for the development of their own game. So,
yeah,
the Panthers are bad for a decade, and just crazy that he picks up the season throwing an interception on his first pass.
Absolute laughing stock down there in Carolina, that's for sure. They had one play, I don't know if you guys caught it. I think it was got his name. Alvin Kamara was going on around the outside there, and one of the Panthers defenders took out three of his own teammates.
Was Alvin Kamara jogging on that too? By the way,
probably.
He looked like he wasn't even trying.
Shout out to Jamal for scoring later in that game too. Jamal Williams, ex-Lion, got himself into pay dirt there, albeit in garbage time against a garbage team. But hey, touchdown's a touchdown.
Double Garbo.
Garbo.
People forget Alvin Kamara is still very, very good.
Yeah, no doubt. The Saints could go marching.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Wasted it week 1.
Think about it quick. All the NFC teams that are clearly good, Bucs are gonna win that division. There's not gonna be any room for the Saints. Again, you're talking about the worst team in the NFC by far, maybe the NFL.
Are you off on the Falcons then, winning that division after yesterday?
Let's roll right into it.
I think I might be.
Yeah, me too.
I think I might be.
Yeah, the Steelers about field goaled them to death there in their own stadium.
Yeah,
I'm not
by
too
1,000
worried about
paper
it.
cuts. That game, that actually was the worst game. To at least the Bears Titans had some comedic value. For how long was that game? 15-10. Ugh.
Too long.
The game was ugly for a while, but Ben, you've got to be excited about your black and yellow defense, man. TJ Watt. Speaking of people that picked up right where they left off. Holy cow.
I was texting somebody this last night, and I said, I think this is the year of the defensive end. I think we've kind of been progressing to that. But if you just look at the talent across the board in the NFL, TJ Watt, Hutch, both Bosa's, like Joey is still a stud. Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, the depth at defensive end across the league is just ridiculous right now. Max Crosby. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's fun to watch those guys go off in games.
Every team has to have a game breaker on the defensive end.
You have to. I mean, that's why T.J. Watt, Nick Bosa, that's why those guys are getting absolutely paid. I mean, they are absolute game wreckers.
Got to do it. Chris Jones for the Chiefs, same department, same area, right? You got to do it. You got to have that player for sure. It's a kingpin on that defense. Mitch, you want to talk about your hometown team? How about Anthony Richardson there in the Colts? They didn't get it down there against the Texans, but
I feel like you guys probably know this, but like, do you guys know how many passes Anthony Richardson completed? Just a quick yes or no, and then a pop quiz. So everyone saw the bomb, right? You guys saw that play, obviously.
It broke next gen stats. It's off the chart. It's literally off the chart. It's too deep.
Well, first of all, he threw it off his back foot. Like that was actually an insane throw. Like that should be throw of the year. So over under 13.5 completions for Anthony Richardson yesterday. Andrew takes the under.
I just looked at it. I can't give mine.
9 completions. Like everyone's getting lost, and he threw 9 completions and 2 of them were touchdowns.
Look at that
crazy.
Throw. Look at this
I
throw.
mean that throw was ridiculous though. Even the shorter one was a ridiculous throw.
Yeah. So I think the Colts are sneaky good. I think they'll be a solid team. I think Chris Ballard is one of the best GMs in the league. But they got to figure out a way to use Anthony Richardson, not just his legs, and kind of keep developing him as a thrower, because I think he can be special.
He's a thrower, not a shower. Look at this chart. Look at this chart.
I wish we could put you in timeout.
We can mute me, and you guys can just close the show if you'd like.
Nope.
Look at this pass chart from Stafford. Conversely,
One
pass over 20 yards.
Crosser.
Just everything
crosser.
basically 10 yards and in.
Yeah, literally,
crazy.
The one interception, dead center from Kirby Joseph right here. Dead
Love
center.
that.
Yeah, little red dot there.
Insanity.
Yeah, it is insanity. Lastly, the Cowboys. Shout out to the Texas teams here. The Cowboys get it done. Silly me for taking the Browns. I kind of forgot that, Dak. I didn't know Dak was going to get a contract right before the game. That's not my fault. I don't think I should deserve a W.
So stupid, and so is Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is
they're selling out.
Jerry Jones is just a dried, crumbled muffin that
they're
needs
selling
to go
out for
away.
this year. They are going Super Bowl this year.
But let me ask you guys this: is that game more about the Cowboys or the Browns? Because I think the Browns are in disarray. And Deshaun Watson doesn't know how to play football anymore.
That guy's got to fake an injury.
He is bad. He is bad. They
Get
look
that guy
bad with
physical
him.
therapy.
They're so stuck because of his contract. But like, man, just play Jameis. Like the payroll is the same no matter what. Yeah, like holy cow, they definitely had a better chance with Jameis yesterday.
You would have taken the team to CC's Pizza afterwards.
Did you see the clip? He went to help out his offensive lineman off the ground, and his offensive lineman smacked his hand away.
Deshaun?
Yeah, he took 6 sacks yesterday. He's terrible.
Andrew's about to buy a new jersey for the Browns right now.
Just to burn it.
New favorite player. No, the offensive lineman jersey.
Oh, the offensive lineman? Absolutely, I'll get that.
Ally. That'd be the biggest ally move you ever did.
Only true believers.
Just state your case. But yeah, I failed to remember how good Dallas was early in the year. This like I said, Mitch, like you said, Mitch. I'm sorry. I think it is more about the Browns than it is the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys start strong with a nice loss in Week 5 to the Lions, and then they do their usual Dallas thing and they tail off, and they end 10 to 12 wins and maybe make the playoffs, maybe don't, maybe lose in the first round.
Did we bring up the biggest Dallas news of all? On the eve of game day, hours before the precipice of their game, and Dak gets a contract?
Yeah, that's
Did we
what
talk about this?
That's what
Did
I
we
led
miss
it
that?
off with.
Okay. Dang, I thought I missed something. Jesus.
Holy
Holy cow.
Mitch was talking about how much of a curmudgeon Jerry Jones is, $231 million
I called him a
guaranteed.
dried,
Tuned you
crumbly
guys
muffin.
out. Tuned you out.
Oh, yeah, we are at that point in the show. let's get out of here. We're gonna have Monday Night Football starting here. 49ers and the Jets. We'll have another show tomorrow. Actually, we'll probably drop it on Wednesday instead, but because of scheduling, we're gonna do it tomorrow. We're gonna do the preview for the Bucs as well as our Week 2 picks. And it's going to be a good one as always. And then we'll be back Sunday to recap. And we've got a Sunday episode again next week. Now that the Lions aren't in primetime next week, back to the 1 o'clock Warrior slot. Lastly, from me, I've got to give a shout out to a fellow MAC team, the Northern Illinois University, bashing Notre Dame, everybody's most hated college team, I think. So shout out to them for upsetting the number 5 team in the nation, NIU getting a historic win in college football. So got to give a shout out there to NIU. Way to do it, boys.
Maybe that'll get Notre Dame to join the MAC conference finally, where they belong.
Certainly a thought there. You got to join the MAC. Maction. Gotta love it. Like this. You got to like this show too. You got to love this show. You got to like. You got to follow. You got to rate us 5 stars. That's a requirement, folks. And vote in that poll down below on Spotify. Follow us on TikTok. We're trying to grow, and we are doing so. So, Lions are 1-0. Let's go, Lions. We're 1-0. We've got a long season ahead of us. Bucs are next. The Bucs stop here. Whoa. And a little extra here from...
All right, shareholders, here we are. Oop, farted. Better redo this one.